What can you take from that first Chargers game? It's a completely different team, but how similar, how different are they from
Yeah, I mean, every team evolves a little bit during the season, but same structure. And, obviously it's not knowing exactly who they're going to be playing. Is Khalil Mack going to be out there? Obviously, we're planning on it, but you have to have a special plan for him. Same way with Derwin James. So I think schematically, they've done a good job there, and I don't think they're veering off what's been working for them a whole lot. So, we'll just have to see who's playing and be ready for their best.
Is your offense, would you say, playoff ready? Is there something that you'd like to tweak or make sure you're paying attention to as you get forward and look forward here?
Yeah, I think, I think we've been playing a little bit better the last few games. I think probably since the first Vegas game, really happy with the way Bo's been progressing. You're always trying to ascend, and that becomes even more urgent as the playoffs start. So certainly things that we're always trying to improve on and, play better. We'd like to clean up some of the drops. Feel like we've been decreasing our penalties, which has been a big goal second half of the season, and I think we've been doing better that way. Just overall, specifically, the drops are a big thing we're trying to clean up. Hit the big plays when they're presented to us. We missed a few in that first Charger game that could have made the difference there. So, just trying to get better in all phases.
Joe, you guys have run the ball at times when you needed to since JK got hurt, but overall efficiency, the raw numbers are down quite a bit. Where do you sort of think you're at overall in terms of the run?
Yeah, I think, like you said, there's been some key moments where it's been good. Always striving to be more consistent, more explosive. We think, RJ's coming along in that way. I think Jaleel's been running the ball well. He's had some big runs for us. I think, always something we're looking to improve on, but we're confident in it right now.
You mentioned Bo's progression. Early in the season, Coach Payton declared that we're not going to grade his progression week to week. It's not going to be a weekly grade. But from this time last year, where do you see the most growth?
Yeah, I think, for a quarterback, I think comfort level is always the thing that you want to see him, as he gets more experience, a young quarterback, just feeling more confident, calmer as he's breaking the huddle, thinking less. So I think that's come a long way. I think he's, his patience in the pocket has improved, keeping in his base, not running early when he doesn't have to. I think that's been a big improvement. And, the last Vegas game and the Chiefs game where they were really, keeping a lid on it and forcing you. I think we had 4 drives in the Chiefs game that were 13 plays, or even maybe 3 that were over 15. And that's hard to do. And you have to be really precise as a quarterback to do that. And, we'd like to be more explosive, but the fact that we're able to do that, I think, has been, a credit to him and his progression.
So since JK went out, where have you seen RJ Harvey continue to take steps?
Yeah, I think just more decisive in the running game, understanding where the ball needs to go. I think he's still progressing, but I think that's gotten a lot better. And you see some of his contact balance and some big runs the last few games. So he's just getting better in all phases.
With your coach, the ability with foresight, the ability to have to step in there, just what you see on tape and how valuable is that?
Yeah, I think, it starts with just he's a really intelligent player, and that's important for a center. His communication, getting the guys on the right people in the run game and setting the protections in the pass game. I think that's the biggest thing. When you have a backup comes in who is able to communicate and set everything the way that he does has been huge. I've been happy with the way he's been playing.
Joe, just a quick follow-up. Alex's performance is kind of the latest of a reserve offensive lineman stepping in, you guys not really having a drop-off. A couple years ago, you didn't really need to rely on any of them, but how much do you feel like that's been a kind of a key to your guys' success, and how much do you see that going into the year?
I think it's been huge, and I think I can remember back in training camp looking at our offensive line and saying, I don't know if I've ever been part of a group that's as deep as we are. So not surprised the way that those guys have responded to some of the injuries. I think it's a credit to just the way this program's been built. The scouting department, finding those guys. Alex was a 7th rounder, I think. Pelcho was undrafted. So, that's, our scouts and the draft process that we have. I think I'm not surprised that we've been able to be in that position because a lot of time and effort goes into it. And, was hoping we didn't have to call on all that depth, but really felt good about it back in training camp that, we can survive a few injuries and still be really good. And I think that's played out.
Sean said he's not worried about the sack numbers. He's
Right.
about caging the quarterback. So what's your satisfaction level with the way you guys have been doing that?
Well, it's really been good. I think to sack the quarterback, you have to cage him. I think coaches is talking about, each week it's different. Each quarterbacks have different scrambling traits, so you have to have the awareness and the plan to rush each guy differently. I think as rushers, it's been good to us. Got a bunch of sacks, 2 years in a row, so we're coaching the right thing. But with players, you have to sometimes remind them. The best thing that we've done in our rush group, it's rush together, right? And it's about rushing together, and everyone eats. So just a sort of reminder sometimes helps.
So what is exactly cage rush definition?
Well, it's different, Mike. You can rush 4, and you're talking about 4 guys pushing the pocket and condensing the gaps with 4 guys, right? If 4 guys are rushing and they blocking with 5, it's a gap open, and the QB carries a gap, right? So you're trying to close gaps with less guys to close each gap. So you're pushing with eyes up and vision. Sometimes you game it to close gaps and the free guys up. So it depends on what you want to do that week as far as your game plan. But caging a quarterback means you're not running past the quarterback, right? You're boxing the quarterback in and making him throw from the pocket. And obviously, if you're rushing 4, the coverage should be pretty good. You make him hold it and you sack him that way. But that's what we've taught. And that's why the sacks are high, right? We're not rushing recklessly past the quarterback to get 4 sacks. So it's been done right, but you have to sometimes remind players that rushing together and caging the quarterback is the way to go, especially when you're playing a Trey Lance this week, or Herbert in the playoffs. So that's just a reminder to our guys.
Coach, how loud the stadium is at home, especially over the past few games. Has there been any issues on defense, whether it's you communicating or the defense themselves communicating? What does it create any unique challenges?
It does sometimes. We practice that out here, obviously, for home games, but it does. But we have hand signals. Sometimes you got to change your hand signals because teams pick them up off tape. So yeah, it's loud for both sides. So communicating cleanly and having hand signals works.
Hey Vance, Sean, I think on Monday mentioned to us that there's only been one Super Bowl team that's had a negative turnover differential
Sure.
postseason. Obviously, that's both sides of the ball. But do you guys do you need to play any differently in the postseason or going forward, or is it just about finding a way to get the ball?
Well, I think playing defense in general, you have to be in good positions, right? And you have to, win the critical downs. That starts with stopping the run, winning 3rd downs in the red zone. I think, we're doing that. The turnovers hadn't come. We had to coach that better, obviously, and strain more to create more turnovers. I want more. We need more turnovers. But we have to focus on, playing the right way. That's the first way, right? And obviously, if you're in good position and you're playing fast and attacking elbow as pass rushers, you can create more turnovers. I think we will create more turnovers. How we play is aggressive. How we play is, with good leverage and gap control, and it's worked. I'm not going to chase turnovers. I want guys tackling. Okay, I want guys in great leverage. I want guys doing their job the right way. I think it's a fine line between chasing that and not playing good football, right? I think when you win 3rd downs, that's a turnover.
Yeah.
Okay, we're 2nd in 3rd downs. We're 2nd in red zone. So for me, that's the critical parts of football.
How do you
and playing defense.
How do you teach guys, or maybe you don't, in terms of the moment to maybe quote unquote gamble on a ball when it's in the air?
We coach it. We coach it.
Yeah.
Okay. And most players, have their way of doing it. Some players, when it's half and half, they're taking the hit. Some players take the ball, right? And that's player driven. But we're coaching, to the player's ability. And as far as forcing takeaways, that's what we've always coached. And that's what I've always coached. Attack the elbow and punching balls out. But sometimes they come, sometimes they don't, right? But we are stressing them. We want more, we need more, and hopefully they'll come soon. But playing good football, run defense, third downs and red zone, that's important also.
Vance,
Time for two more.
you mentioned Trey Lance. How different is it getting ready for him with just not a lot of tape, really in general, but especially here versus getting ready for Urban?
It's plenty of tape. It's plenty of tape. I mean, he is a first-round pick for a reason. He's athletic. He can run. That's coach's, theme this week about rushing the guy the right way because he can hurt us with his legs. I thought the kid we played last week was athletic also, and he got away a couple times. Not bad, but not good enough, to our standard. So I think Trey is a exceptional athlete. He can make every throw on the field. He's a first-round pick. So playing our best ball is going to be important for us, guys. We don't care who we play. It's just doing our jobs, and each week it doesn't change. What's the best plan to get these people stopped, right? And put our guys in good position to make plays, and that's it, right? We don't care who's playing for them. At least I don't.
Late in the
Last
season,
question.
when results tend to get more important, is it easier to get the guys to focus on the process of how you get those results? Or do you say, as long as we get it done, it doesn't matter?
No. For the last month and a half, my message to our guys was the things that we wouldn't tolerate in losses, we can't tolerate in wins. So everything is being corrected, guys. Again, our weeks don't change. We win by 30, we win by 1, we lose by 30. It's the same Monday. It's correct. It's improve. It's get better in certain areas. So for us, it doesn't change. At least for me and my guys, it doesn't change. It's the same process. I think as you play late in the season, you're playing better people. It's more tape out there, right? You may give up a play or two because that's on tape, so you have to be really detailed. You got to tackle well. You got to fit well. You got to play great leverage. You got to rush the passer the right way. Those things come back to just basics. And the bigger the games I've been in, it always comes back to that. Tackling, having good eye placement, great run defense, being great on third down and red zone. So that won't change.
You've had 3 months or 6 months, or however you look at it,
Yes.
to improve.
Yes.
How much can a team improve throughout?
I think you can improve an awful lot week to week, and that's not just coach talk. I think you can improve, right? I mean, you have different game plans to improve. You can help players, with certain calls and certain techniques, so you can improve. And in this league, if you're not improving, you're getting worse, it will show. So my focus for our defense, because it's been a good year numbers-wise, a lot of good numbers, so to convince those guys that that's not good enough, to keep pushing and improving in certain areas. And, Coach Payton's deal is really cool. The more we won, the harder he's been on everyone to keep the urgency. And when we lost one, he kind of pulled back and said, okay, guys, let's go fix this, right? So I think the entire staff has been that way. So I don't see our guys not improving or not being urgent.
Sean said the biggest thing about winning Sunday is it's one less game. But for you, I guess, do you impart that on your guys? Because now maybe you can go watch the Hurricanes play.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to Joe Vitt this morning. He's been in the league 40-something years, and him and I just shooting the breeze in the locker room. And I said, Joe, how many times in your career have you been able to say, if we win this game, we get the 1 seed? And he kind of sat there for a second. He said twice in 44 years or whatever the number is. So, I think we could take it for granted sometimes. You can be in this league for a long, long time and never play in a game like this. Regardless, the bottom line is the outcome gets us, our goal. And so, And so, all the focus has been on that. We joke around about the New Year's Eve thing. But, yeah, I mean, yesterday was a normal Wednesday. Today's been a normal Thursday. Christmas Eve and Christmas were Wednesdays and Thursdays. So just it is what it is. It's part of the deal when you get to this profession, and we can hopefully celebrate afterwards.
When teams rest their starters offensively, defensively, does that tend to also impact special teams, or do they tend to keep the same guys there.
Yeah, Sean and I were talking about that the other day. It could be a major challenge for the special teams coaches because if some guys get elevated, we'll wait and see what they end up doing. But in that circumstance, if some guys get elevated, linebackers, defensive backs especially, then all of a sudden the matchups change. Special teams is very matchup driven, and who's playing where and all that stuff. So it's definitely a challenge for the special teams coach to know who the actives are. That's every week, but then in a week where it's a unique circumstance. So we'll track that. One of my things to the players yesterday was every week we make a huge emphasis on our guys of knowing the roster, knowing the other team's roster. It's something that Coach Parcells kind of drilled into my head when I got into the NFL. One of the first times I ever met with Coach Parcells, he said one of the most underrated things for a coach is knowing all 32 rosters and knowing all the people and knowing the players. And so weekly, we make that a huge emphasis. I know Sean always talks about that, and we make it a huge. And so our core special teamers knowing their roster, knowing who's out there, knowing the jersey numbers, like it's something that can maybe fly under the radar a little bit, but it's a big deal. So it'll be a challenge for us this week once we figure out who's playing, who's not, knowing who's where. So.